All right. So this is the lessons that we have to do for style. Okay. So year 9 science home learning term 3. Okay. So you should see two things when you get to style. So one is a lesson and the other one is a quiz. So you need to go through the lesson first to get the information. Okay. There's some questions in there for you to do as well, just so that you can just so that you have an idea of what the lesson is about. And then the quiz is basically to test you on your knowledge. Okay. So let's go through the lesson first. All right. Now I'm not going to go through every single part of the lesson, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the analyze here, and I can see here that 4 people have started. Okay, 3 submitted, and what I can see here is there are a few questions where we should go through together. All right. So one is this one here. So we can see here that it's only 50% people got the answer correct. So the question asks, if the population of phytoplankton increases, then it is likely that the clam population will something. Okay. Now let's think about this. So if you have looked at the video in the lesson, you would learn that the clam basically feed on the phytoplankton. Okay, so if you have more phytoplankton, what you would expect to do? What would what you would expect the clam population to do would be to increase because they have more food, right? So if they have more food, they would start breeding more and they would start increasing in numbers. And then for this one here, so the majority of people had the correct answer here, so that's very good. And it says that if the population of turtles increases, then it is likely that the sea jelly population will something. Okay. Now, the sea turtle, they would eat the sea jelly, right? So if you have more sea turtles, then they would hunt sea jelly, and therefore the sea jelly population would decrease. So I hope that makes sense there. And, and I can see that question 7, everyone's so far who's has answered this has got it correct. So well done. Let's see if there's any other questions that people need to look at. Oh, oh, oh my goodness! I just realized. Oh, this is silly, guys. I just realized I was looking at a different class answer. This is our class. A lot more people have started, so that's good. All right, so 4 people have started the work and 6 people have submitted, so that's really good. Okay, so better than the other class, right? So we've gone through question 4 there. We've gone through question 5. Let's look at question 7. So what is question 7? So according to the video, what percentage of the fish populations are currently overfished? Okay, so how much, how much overfishing are we doing here? So the correct answer is 31%. Okay, so this is from the video. All right. So 31% of fish population are being overfished. So what this means is, right? Um, so imagine you have the whole Earth, okay, and fish populations are scattered around the Earth. And the problem right now is that there is this one or maybe a few little areas where there's a lot of fishing going on, okay? And people just keep going back to this spot to fish because they know that, hey, there's fish here. So they keep going back to this one, and that results in overfishing, okay? What we need to do is we need to let the population in this area, in this spot, to repopulate. And we should go to another place, okay? If we want our fish, we need to go to a different place to do our fishing, okay? Um, Johan, yes, style is something that we need to do for the learning task this week, okay? Anything else here? All right, so the rest are responses. Oh, I forgot. Question one, we don't have to do much. That's just basically um, reflecting on the satellite photos. Okay. Oh, then let's go to question two. Back here. All right. So question two is taking notes. All right. Question three is brainstorming. Okay. So there's a lot of note taking at the start. Let's have a look at question eight because it's an understanding question. So the question asks, explain why the uh, Pan Patagonian toothfish or the Chilean sea bass is particularly vulnerable to overfishing. Okay, so this answer here is say the slow reproductive rate and long lifespan is the reason. Okay, for it to for of it being unsafe to overfish. So the slow reproductive rate. So that what that means is, it's taking very long um, for the fish to reproduce. Okay, or if they do reproduce, they don't reproduce that many fish. Okay, they don't reproduce that many baby fish to repopulate. Melina, we do have a cat starting next week. Okay. Logan said it takes 10 years for him to spawn. Yeah. So that's why it's very long time. And that's why we need to be careful that we don't overfish them. Um, the answer here say because it's luxury seafood, so everyone wants it. Yes, that's true. It's, people want their seafood, but the main reason is that actually I guess this can be, one reason as well. So this is the reason why we overfish them, okay? Because we are fishing them a lot. The other reason is because they have a very low reproductive rate, okay? So there's two reasons together combined, and that give us overfishing, okay? The answer here because they are very vulnerable to fishing and being caught before even being able to spawn. Yeah, right. So they caught before they can make new baby fish. So question 9 here, analyze. So assume that fishing of all types of fish, excluding sharks, causes their population to decrease. Using the food web, predict whether the populations of snails, sharks, turtles, and seaweed will increase or decrease. Justify each prediction by explaining your reasoning. So what I can see here is so this person only filled in for the humphead wrasse and the snail. Okay, and they said that it's gonna decrease, but they haven't done for the shark, the turtle, and the seaweed. Right? So let's go through this question together. Now I think I need to go back to the question itself, just so that we can see the food web. Okay. All right. So let's go. So that's question 9. So Logan said, wouldn't the snails increase? Okay, good question. Let's have a look at the food web. All right. So here's our food web. Right. And question 9 is saying fishing causes all types of fish to decrease in population. So then we need to predict whether the populations of snails, sharks, and turtles and seaweed would increase or decrease. Okay, so if the humphead wrasse decrease in population, okay, that means that for the shark, they would lose a food source. Okay, what we can see here is that the arrows means that the shark gets their energy from the humphead wrasse. Okay, basically that means that the shark eats the humphead wrasse. So they would lose the food source. So the population of the shark would decrease, right? What about the turtle? So because the population of the turtle, sorry, because the population of a shark would decrease, that means there would be less shark to hunt the turtle. The question said is excluding sharks. So Logan, what the question is saying is that we don't fish sharks. Okay, it's actually not true. Sharks are being hunted for their fins quite a lot. But what he's saying is, what this question is saying is that if we assume that only the fish are being fished, what would happen to the population of sharks? Okay, that's what it's saying. So because the population of this fish has gone down, the shark has lost one of their food source, so their population would decrease. Because the population decreases, there's less sharks to hunt the turtle, so the population of turtle would increase. Okay. Now, because this population of fish decrease, that means that less fish would eat the snail, so the population of the snail would increase. Okay, so Logan was correct. Population of snail would increase. And when that happens, what it would do is there will be a lot more snails to eat the seaweed. So the population of seaweed would decrease. Now the thing is the seaweed affect the turtle because the turtle eats the seaweed, right? So if there's less seaweed, the turtle would have less food, and so their population would decrease. So for the turtle, it's a bit complicated because not only that their population would increase because there's less shark hunting them down, but at the same time, their population would decrease because they have less food. Okay, so it's a matter of which one would have more of an effect on the turtle. Does that make sense, guys? Let me know if you need me to explain anything again. Okay, and we can have a look at the model answer as well. So snail would increase, right? So do turtles increase or decrease? Let's have a look through the model answer, right? So snail definitely increase because there's less fish hunting them down. For shark, decrease, like we said. So they have less food. Okay. For the turtle, here it says that actually, let's look at the seaweed first. For the seaweed, it would decrease, right? Because there would be more snails. That's what it's saying here. The decrease in fish number will cause an increase in the primary consumer that the fish prey on, snails. These primary consumers eat seaweed, so as the number increase, the amount of seaweed would decrease. Okay, so we got that. So let's look at turtle. So Stile said that it would increase. So it says here the only predator of turtles are shark. If the shark population decreases, then we would expect the number of turtle would increase. Okay, so they didn't talk about the fact that the seaweed has decreased. Okay, and perhaps the reason why they didn't consider that is because, the turtle, they still have algae and coral to eat. They still have sponge. Okay, the population of sponge hasn't changed, and the population of sea jelly hasn't changed. So perhaps because of that, their population would still stabilize for a little bit. Okay, they've only lost one source of food. But if you so overall, I guess what it's saying is that the effect of the seaweed is not that big. So the amount of decrease is outweighed by the amount of increase. So therefore, overall, the population of turtle would increase. Logan said the shark also has other food source, so why would it decrease? That's a good question. Um, that's true. Okay. So I'm guessing here Style hasn't considered everything. Okay. And so, like if this question was a 4-mark questions, I would probably give Style 3 marks because they haven't considered everything here. So yeah, it's a bit more complicated for the turtle. At the same time, Logan, really good question that you had there. But what we can think, what we can also analyze here is that because the number of seaweed has decreased, it would affect the amount of triggerfish because the triggerfish eats the seaweed, so the triggerfish would decrease as well, right? And the angelfish would also decrease. Does that make sense? And is there anything else that would eat seaweed? There's a lot. Um, but you can see there, just because the seaweed decrease, it also causes the triggerfish, the angelfish, to decrease. Okay, and so what happens then is the shark would probably only have the tusk fish left. Does that make sense? So, so yeah, for the shark, it is affected quite a lot because it's right here at the top. What happens down here would affect the top. Okay, so I hope that makes sense there. All right. Is there anything else? It is 2:50. So I've kept you guys here for quite a long time. So I can see that quite a lot of people have already left. Okay. But if you guys want, you guys can go and do your work as well. Thank you for coming. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Okay, and I'll answer that as soon as I can. All right. So again, thank you guys for coming to the lesson.